Polypede Works here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1191 entitled Loki is Here. So we start off the chapter pretty interestingly, in which Luffy is contemplating why he's still alive after taking such massive injuries from Imu. And then he thinks if he goes back to normal out of Gear 5th, it would be bad, saying that perhaps the injury sustained would be even more severe in his normal state. So Gear 5th is keeping him together. And we've talked about this before, and we'll be talking about it in upcoming videos, because it does seem like Awakened Zoans, properly Awakened Zoans, do have healing capabilities, and it's been very touch and go how they are applied. So from what's being said here, it seems like Gear 5th is just keeping him together. Luffy goes off to find Gaban, and he apologizes for Gaban having to take the attack for him, and then they go on to talk about who exactly Imu is. And Gaban thinks that Imu is actually the deity of their world. Cut to Imu, whom is in a mountaintop at the moment in the underworld of Elbaf. We see two interesting and familiar faces, a rock panda and a Killrabi. These are animals from One Piece film Strong World. And like I've said in so many videos before, it's very heartwarming that so many of these guys are just becoming canon, because the rock panda appears in the movie, but the Killrabi does not. And the Killrabi is this weird wolf thing with rabbit ears. He only appeared in One Piece film Strong World concept art. So it's very interesting to see him here in the flesh. So they both faint due to a burst of Imu's Conqueror's Haki. Imu starts to ponder about things, saying the Pirate King's crew, and how it was a weird thought that the youths from God Valley grew up to be such a nuisance. And that's when they begin to transform, contemplating that they should have finished them off a long time ago along with rocks. And when Imu fully transforms, they become more demonic, letting out a big burst of black flames. Then, cutting over to the Owl Library, we get something that I have been waiting for a very long time, and I'm glad we have it. So finally, Chopper is being set up to talk to Biblo, like I said would happen. I knew this was going to happen. Biblo speaks, and we don't get to see what he actually says, but Chopper is surprised. Now, we've had ongoing theories about Biblo. I still think that he is the ancient weapon Uranus. I still think that. I still do. We'll have to wait and see what that thing is that he's saying in the next chapter. We'll have to wait and see. But we get a full shot of what Imu looks like transformed again. And this is where I'm like, okay, I don't actually know what's up with Zoans, because Zoans genuinely can become whatever they want. And in this transformation, the bird wings are more prominent, which is weird. Again, we've had many videos about Imu possibly being a parrot. Yeah, it's weird that the wings are even more prominent here. Imu now has 4 horns, which is also odd. And the mark of the Depths Covenant is no longer a part of the shroud. The shroud has seemingly fused to Imu's arms and legs, it seems. And then the 3 skulls that were on their weird devil tail sash around their feet are now a necklace around their neck. So this is a very odd transformation. And now it seems like they're wearing black pants and boots, which is interesting. And the shroud that was once just simply black is now covered in their own eyes. It looks like from the shots that we've been seeing that the big ring behind them is now gone, which is interesting. I wonder why that is. Why is the ring gone? Because now there's no real indication that they are awakened anymore. Because I was under the impression that the ring was the Shroud of Mastery, the Hagoromo, but now that's doesn't seem to be the case. And now their hair is more wild and curvy, like Luffy's hair in Gear 5th. So it's a very odd transformation. And they are still holding Honey Bami, congratulating Gaban from escaping it, Gabon says, I could say the same to you, but I don't have a hand to applaud you right now, which is funny. That is a crazy line. That's a crazy line. But as Imu was about to strike Gabon down, Haruden comes in with Gungnir and punches this new transformed Imu in the face. Bam! It seems like Imu tries to set off those black flames in order to summon Stigma again, but from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like it works, or they just miss. In punching Imu, Haruden breaks one of his shields on his arm in the process, which is insane. But that is when something interesting happens as Haruden is talking to Luffy. And Luffy says, I'm going to recover now. They remark that's nuts. Luffy goes on to say, I ate a lot. I can make it happen. And Gabon says, like we've seen many times before, because this exact scene happens in Thriller Bark with Brook, when Brook talks about how milk can heal his body. And this happens again in Whole Cake Island when Luffy and Brook drink milk in order to heal. Gabon says, what kind of logic is that? You can't fight anymore. That is exactly the same reaction that we've been getting each time that food has some sort of healing property is brought up. And these mechanics will be talked about in a future video, so please stay tuned to the channel. But this is interesting. It's interesting that it's been presented in this exact context each time. The character in question, usually somebody who's like a weird elevated being like Luffy and Brook, mention that, oh yeah, I could eat this or drink this and heal. And then a common person like the Fire Tank Pirates guy or Usopp or now Gabon, who are all normal humans, say, that's impossible. How could this happen? And then all of a sudden it happens, because in the next scene, Luffy somehow gets fat as if he ate a whole bunch of food. And I guess in this time, judging by the panels, the 3 stigma shots, which are actually just bombs, do make it to our party here, and Haruden blocks them with his back. So that's crazy. It looked like the setup for a stigma, but it's actually just bombs. Also, I'm just noticing now, Imu has a goatee in this state, which is really weird. They didn't have any facial hair before. How odd, how odd. That's when Haruden talks to Gabon and says, Elbaf will never take the knee. And he says if he dies, it's okay because Loki is here, which is the title of the chapter. And that's when Loki springs up and says, well said, brother. He tells Haruden to get ready as Haruden fashions an axe. And that is when Luffy is actually healed, gasping and saying, I'm also back up on my feet. Gabon is surprised and says, what in the world are you guys? Luffy revs up for a gum something. And that is when the brothers and Luffy attack together in an attack called Goku's Sovereignty. I always thought this was going to happen, that Haruden and Loki would pull off something similar that Brocky and Dory pulled off on Little Garden back in the day. I always thought something like this would actually come up, so I'm happy we finally got it. Now, I'm still thinking, based on what's happening here, that Loki's going to join the crew. I still think that, because Haruden dying here would be a bit too much, because out of all the guys in the Grand Fleet, it's really like him, Cavendish, and Bartolomeo that have gotten most of the screen time and have gotten most of the backstory. Cavendish comes from a whole kingdom. Bartolomeo has a whole bit about growing up in the East Blue and being inspired by Luffy. And now, of course, we see that he appears in live action, so he's not going anywhere. And Haruden takes us all the way back to Dressrosa, in which he was a big deal there, and continue on to be a big deal because he was in cahoots with Buggy for a while, and now we're here with him as a part of the Grand Fleet, and we find out that he is the prince to the throne of Elbaf. So there's too much going on for him to perish right now. So yeah, I do think, seeing as how he has the ambition to become the king of the giants, he's not dying. Loki, I think, will join the crew though, and I think it's only proper for Haruden to take the throne, and possibly not Loki. Even though that's what Harold wanted, I don't think that will actually happen because he has no actual motive to do so. If anything, his whole beef is with the world government, so his ideals align more with Luffy's, if you ask me. But yeah, they attack together, and we don't know what happens to Imu after that. But yeah, Imu looks really devilish now. That's interesting. And even in this devilish state, they keep the bird wings. I don't know. That parrot stuff. And it's weird now because, yeah, we don't know what form this is. Because like we've been seeing with Killingham, for example, Zoans, if they've mastered the art of transformation, even like Chopper, you can be whatever you want to be. There is no true body anymore, really, which is a weird concept, but it's true. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what the layout of Imu is, because of course Imu is not anything special. I think Imu is just one of the older beings here amongst Ragnir and Biblo, but I don't think Imu is anything special. I think Imu is just a very, very old devil fruit user who's had many a decade to train and hone his abilities, or their abilities rather, to be whatever they want to be. So there is a break next week. There is Oda's break next week. So in the meantime, as always, I will keep you supplied with One Piece content. But with that being said, if you are liking what you are seeing so far, hit the like button. And if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button, followed by that bell so you never miss a video. In addition to, if you could, hit the hype button because it really does help. And with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede. What?